Hello, this is Annie, and welcome back to downtown for another speed build. This time I didn't make a renovation. This time I decided to make a lot from scratch because I had an idea. And I decided to name the street Queen Street this time because there is a King Street also in downtown. And from what I've noticed from real life, whenever there is a King Street and there should also be a Queen Street normally, and they tend to cross with each other so that they don't run parallel. They actually intersect one another. So that's what I did for this one. And the idea for this lot is that besides the sort of townhouses and low-rise buildings I've done so far, I also wanted to experiment with high-rise buildings because that's something that I haven't really played with before, but that I'm interested to learn more about. And I know that the camera is gonna be very wonky when I start to actually play with this lot. So what I think I will have to do is to set camera angles to be able to sort of click in between the different levels of the build. But yeah, that's a problem for future me, I suppose, when I start playing with it. But yeah, this is also a testament to the fact that sometimes you have to try something out, even if it doesn't end up working out in the end. It's better to actually try it and see what you think, and if you fail, then you fail. What I mean with that is that, as you saw when I started building, I tried to make a garage, and the idea was also that I wanted to make it into a functional one. Just by the way, what I'm doing here is I'm just checking the height of the build, how high I want it to be compared to the other buildings. But yeah, I tried to make it into a functional garage because my thought process was that I was going to be able to make the topmost building be connected to a parking space down in the basement with help of an elevator. Unfortunately, it turns out that the game doesn't allow us to use elevators in apartments. So unfortunately, in the end, I wasn't able to make it work, and I had to just make the garage completely decorative. But I'm actually happy that I tried it out and saw for myself what happened. And sometimes making these experiments is just necessary. So yeah. Here I am using another feature that I wanted to experiment with. I'm really sorry about the wonky camera, by the way. It's gonna be a lot of that. I actually had to use a slower speed than what I normally do for these speed builds. Just because the camera was going up and down so much and I didn't want to make you seasick. So sorry about the wonky camera work here. But yeah, those sort of diagonal windows was something that I wanted to attempt working with as well, because I wanted to make this apartment extremely modern. And I had looked at some inspiration pictures specifically for diagonal windows like this to see sort of what it looked like in an apartment. And yeah, using them, what you do is that you actually put a wall pretty far out from this side of the window. So since it slopes inwards, the roof above it technically is still aligned with the bottom of the window. So what I had to do, is my theory anyway, is to put in an invisible roof above it to actually make the apartment weatherproof as well when I start playing with it, because even if I use these windows, I don't want it to rain or snow into the apartment. So I sort of have to enclose it with that invisible flooring, and of course both the flooring and the ceiling part of it. But the issue is that also created a floor edge that you can see sticking out. That was so annoying to me. I think I might be able to like work around it and ignore it when I start playing, but building this, I was like, oh no, that floor edge, why are you there? Yeah, so, but I think at least that's what I had to do to make it weatherproof. And yeah, the reason why I wanted to make this build as well is also that I was trying to figure out where I wanted to house the Diva. And at first I was thinking that maybe she should have this huge mansion over by the House of Fallen Trees. Maybe she's from a wealthy family and has that history, but it didn't really speak to me. I think that the Diva is more similar to the Sims that you would see in Bridgeport in The Sims 3. That's actually a world that I loved playing with when I was playing The Sims 3. I think it's my favorite actually. And yeah, the way that I envisioned the Diva, I think that she would suit that city a lot. And that's sort of the vibe I was going with this apartment as well. I drew some inspiration from, well, Bridgeport when I built it. I tried to at least. So that's sort of the idea for this high-rise building as well, why I decided to make it. And it might have also had something to do with a rerun of Gossip Girl on the Swedish Netflix recently. Yeah, so that was also a little bit of inspiration for me building this. Sort of the huge apartments that you can see Serena and Blair live in, mainly. So of course I wanted to have a huge entrance when the Sims come in. And this is supposed to be pretty fancy. With the way that the build turned out like, the bottom 4 levels of the build looks like it was part of an older building, and then they built a few floors onto it later, I think. Because yeah, with the modern windows and everything, I think that's what happened to this technically. And I can't really say that it turned out the most beautiful building that I've ever done. It actually looks a little bit strange, but I also think that that's pretty true to the way that city buildings look. They don't always look the most beautiful. Sometimes they do, of course. But yeah, I think that better luck next time for me in terms of visuals on the outside of the build, even though I really liked the way it turned out inside though, so it's getting better, I promise. Yeah, so I also put in some empty and blacked out spaces and floors here that are just gonna be sort of mock floors where nothing is going on. And I specifically decided not to use any unnecessary walls in these floors, because if you didn't already know, there's a wall limit. Every lot has a wall limit, and yeah, when you reach it, you get this warning pop-up window, and you won't be able to keep building. So if you've built these really huge builds before, you probably run into it. I recently learned from another simmer on Tumblr that if you use Numenor's walls, you can work around the wall limit and build more, even when you reach it. I haven't tried it out myself, but I do trust this person. I think that that would be interesting to experiment with. And if you do build something that is huge, then that could be a good tip for you. Right, so I made this sloping down driveway into the garage, and yeah, I had to make a sort of a strange decorative door with help of windows and wallpaper that I was like, I might change this out later. But now that I can't even use the garage, I think I'm just gonna leave it, because it doesn't really matter. I'm not gonna be down there much anyway. So yeah, the reason for that was that I don't have that mod that makes the driveways rotatable. I did try it out at one point, but what happened to me at least was that since I have the park in the car park mod that allows the Sims to drive in and park on community lots, for me at least it interfered with that mod, so they didn't like each other. So that's why I decided to prioritize using the car park mod instead of the rotatable driveways. But yeah, it was a while ago and it might have been something else, I suppose. But yeah, that was at least the reason why I couldn't put in a garage door, because I couldn't turn it. That is. So yes, and then we're coming up to this... oh god, the camera work. The Diva's apartment. That's the only way that I'm thinking about it, is that it's her apartment. I didn't really build it for anyone else. So in my mind, it's going to be hers. And I wanted to make it 2-level with these modern staircases and yeah, with huge windows and with a balcony and yeah, really, really modern. And of course, this huge room with the sloping windows is going to be very open as well. I think I'm probably gonna put in the kitchen and possibly a living space or like entertainment space in that room with sloping windows. Yeah, it's gonna be fun to figure out the layout of this. And I worked around with the staircases a bit and the windows and doors up here. It wasn't completely clear to me when I started to build exactly what the layout was supposed to be. But yeah, what it turned out to be was that it's a huge bedroom at the top here with the balcony. And yeah, also a big bathroom. So despite being really, really big, this apartment is just gonna house one Sim, I suppose. So let's hope she doesn't get pregnant straight off the bat, because I wouldn't know where to put the baby in this apartment. Yeah, I think it's gonna be fine. And yeah, I also went in and changed out all of these ceilings to this more structured one, I suppose you could say. And I also had to work around with the invisible ceiling above the sloped windows, because yeah, when I held in shift and put down the ceilings with this wooden flooring, it actually added in that same ceiling under the invisible part, and then when I made it invisible, it removed this ceiling. So I was working back and forth with it quite a lot. Until I realized that I had to sort of drag it, but I'll do that later. And I wasn't sure either what kind of textures I wanted, and decided to go with this wooden flooring that I don't think I've ever used before. But it matched the staircase really well, so that's why I decided on it. And I think it added a little something to these apartments. Yeah, so we see here the elevator that I thought would work. Unfortunately, I had to change it out in the end. But that's just goes to show that if I hadn't tried this, I wouldn't have found out that it wasn't possible. So don't be discouraged by these huge projects like this, even if it doesn't end up working out in the end. You'll learn something from it, and you'll grow as a builder. So definitely keep pushing yourself, even if it doesn't end up working out in the end. And some of these rooms, unfortunately, had to be without windows. But yeah, that's just how it is. And I tried to keep it being, I kept it being these hallways and bathrooms. No other rooms are without windows. And all of the rooms in these apartments turned out being huge. So they will be very fun and interesting to furnish later, I think. because furnishing very cramped spaces is one type of technique, and furnishing very large and lavish spaces is a completely different one. And I think that it's possible to draw a lot of inspiration from The Sims 3 again when furnishing this as well, because if you look back to Bridgeport again, those apartments, but I mean, I think especially the celebrity houses had these really huge rooms, but somehow the way that they furnished them, at least I feel like it all made sense, and the rooms were properly filled up anyway. So there's a certain technique you can use for that, I suppose. And when it comes to the inhabitants of this apartment building, apart from the Diva, I am considering moving in one more family in here. That maybe they could be wealthier than others, possibly, but I'll have to see when I put people in here in the different houses and apartments where to house them. But I have one family in mind that maybe, but I'll have to see. But at least for the Diva, my plan is that she's going to be some sort of a celebrity. And of course, we don't have the same celebrity system in The Sims 2 that we had in The Sims 3, with or The Sims 1 for that matter. But I think I can draw inspiration from both of those games and create something in The Sims 2. It will be fun to figure that out. We do have a reputation system, after all, that can probably be used, and it would be interesting as well to try to figure out if there's a way to do some sort of an active career for a celebrity. Like, say for example that she's an actress. Maybe I can make movie sets or something, or photo shoots, or interview sessions, or I don't know. It would be fun to figure out. But that's what I have in mind for her anyway. I think that this is the first time that I try out working with a mirror floor or a glass floor that is in this entrance, and it's basically just huge window carpets, not windows, mirror carpets, you could say, that you put down on top of the tiling. And looking at it like this, I thought to myself that it looked a little bit too shiny for some reason. So I will end up covering part of it up with a carpet later. No, 2 carpets. I ended up going with 2 carpets. And I wanted it to be sort of like, not that there's a porter or a reception desk or anything like that, because I think that would have made it feel too much like a hotel. And it's not supposed to be a hotel, it's supposed to be like an actual apartment building. So I ended up going with the sofas instead. And I figured that if there's visitors coming here, that they need somewhere to sit down and wait for the people that are coming to visit. And I wanted it to feel sort of old-fashioned and rich, and that kind of vibe when you come into the entrance here, with paneled walls and of course this floor and Persian rugs and lots of decoration, and it's gonna be paintings and things as well later. So that's sort of the vibe that I was thinking of for this downstairs part, and I suppose that also extends to the apartments that we can't see on the first 4 levels as well. That's my idea for that. And then when coming up to the top levels, that's where the modern part of it is. And I really enjoyed putting in that call box as well, because that's sort of what I envision as well for this downstairs entrance hall, that visitors can come and call on the call box and then sit down in the couches and wait for the person to have time to see them. And there's also these mailboxes, or what to call it. I think that they are conversions from The Sims 3, unless I'm mistaken. Because yeah, that's also something that in that game there normally was these kinds of entrance parts with the elevators and stuff, and there were these mailboxes and I think also a call box. I think that's where it comes from. Yeah, so that's where the most of this inspiration came from as well. And yeah, here you can see I also put in statues and this really, really fancy paintings. And it's starting to come together. This is almost what it ends up looking like. But yeah, I was messing around with the sofas. I wasn't exactly feeling happy with these, even if they're really beautiful. I actually decided to go back to modular sofas in the end because I just couldn't make this look good. So I have this Annie modular sofa that I really like. That's what I ended up putting in. And it also looked a little bit empty, even putting this many things in. I ended up putting in these huge plants as well to fill out the space, because it is a pretty huge room after all. Yeah, filling it up was a little bit of a challenge. And yeah, making a layout that made sense. But yeah, that's how it turned out in the end. And I also needed to somehow screen off the driveway down to the garage, because that shouldn't be like part of the main what you see when you go visit this. So I ended up putting in a really high fence. And I tried out putting in grass as well around the building, because that's what has been around the other houses in the town so far that I renovated. But it didn't end up looking right, I think, because in the middle of the high-rise part of the city, I feel like it shouldn't be that much grass. It didn't look correct to me. It should be much more concrete. So that's what I ended up sticking with. I've actually considered changing the hood terrain to grass instead of concrete, but yeah, I think I'll stick to this because this is the classic downtown feel. And yeah, I want to challenge myself and do something different from Pleasant View. Oh, this part frustrated me so much. I couldn't figure out, like, why can't I put it down in most spaces but not in some spaces, and the places that I couldn't put it down was changing around, and I was like, okay, I'm giving up. This is gonna be how it looks. I couldn't put it to the edge of that staircase, so yeah, sometimes you just have to work with what you can get. I suppose. Yeah, I'm putting in the lights here, and yeah, as I've mentioned in the previous apartment builds, I put in lights everywhere, just so that I don't forget to put it in the common areas, because that's something that I've learned by forgetting to do it in previous apartments I've built through the years, that it's better to put it down everywhere. Because yeah, it's very easy to miss putting in lights, and then when you start playing with the lot and all of a sudden you see that there's no lights in the communal areas, it's gonna be a hassle because you have to move out the family and change it up, and yeah, so it's better to just put it in. Yeah, also putting in the yeah, still don't know what the name for that is. Trash. You know what I mean anyway. Where do you throw out the trash? And yeah, also lighting up the garage. And at this stage I thought that it was gonna be connected to the Diva's apartment. So I had put down 3 parking spaces for her. And yeah, here you see that I ran into trouble. And yeah, the trial and error process started, like trying to check out like what does the apartments look like, what could be the issue. And I tried removing the elevator and voila, it worked. And I was panicking. Like, oh no, oh my god, what am I gonna do now? I built everything around this elevator. So yeah, I was just figuring that, okay, I'm gonna make it decorative at this stage, and yeah, started to decorate with a staircase leading up, and then I needed to have it connect to the entrance in some way. So I messed around with that for a bit. Ended up putting in a sort of corner room like this that just contains the staircase. And yeah, then I put in decorative parking spaces instead, just so that there actually will be cars down here. And surprisingly, putting them in, I realized that this is a pretty small garage actually. Building it from the start, I felt like, oh, this is gonna be huge, but no, actually, it isn't. And I mean, even putting down just the parking spaces for the Diva, I only could fit 3 of them in. So yeah, cars take up more space than you might think. So yeah, as I mentioned, I had to mess around with the ceilings a bit here because, again, making part of it invisible, I had to actually drag it across that section for it not to affect the rest of the ceiling on that floor. And here I am removing everything that was part of that elevator, which made the apartments a little bit bigger, which is not a bad thing. And yeah, it's just what it is. Again, I'm glad that I tried it out at least, because now I know that, okay, I can't use elevators in apartments, which is a shame. But yeah, I suppose it's just what it is. And yeah, we're coming up to look at the different floors. So this is the entrance. And yeah, all of the empty mock floors. The first apartment. And the second one. As you can see, very, very big rooms. The third one. And the Diva's apartment. The top one. With the second floor as well. And the balcony. And I'm thinking that I can probably put in a hot tub up there as well for her. Something like that. Thinking back to The Sims 3 and the apartments in Bridgeport, I think that some of them did have hot tubs on the balconies, so I think it should work. And I think that looking out from the huge windows here, you have a very good view of the city vibe, so I really look forward to going into first-person view and playing around in these apartments, because yeah, it's gonna be fun. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Take care. Bye.